Well, those 10 seconds took a while, didn't they? Unless you're watching it on a playlist, in which case it took us talking about it's taking longer than 10 seconds. Oh, there's the dark room.
I was gonna say, clicking the video, letting it start might. Do you think it takes 10 seconds?
Well, if it's in a playlist, it just plays the next video immediately.
Yeah, but do you think there's really 10 seconds from that? Us saying, well, no, because we said next episode, but like the end of that episode.
We said stuff. There's a 30-second credits sequence, unless you're
proactive
I forgot. Enough to skip it, and this might be an ad.
Oh, lame.
Could have been minutes. With that,
sorry,
the lights
we lied to you guys.
Slowly dim, and everything goes completely silent. I just sit there, looking toward the throne, Cato sitting as motionless as an ancient Roman sculpture. Then the doors open, and we all look over, including the cameras. In walk Amicus and Cassius, side by side. They must have been waiting out there next to each other, just like Alex and I had been before the second trial. I have to wonder what that must have been like. Without a word, the two of them walk up to the broad, carpeted aisle, in sync with each other. I stare intelligently.
Well, that too.
I stare intently at Amicus as he passes, just in case he looks at me, and I can give him an encouraging smile. He looks straight ahead, though, a more serious expression on his face than I've ever seen. Everything stays quiet, the only sound being the muffled shuffling of the padded feet and claws on the carpet. Nobody wears shoes in this universe.
I like that idea.
Once they reach the foot of the stairs, they come to a stop before they both bow deeply to Cato. This lasts a few seconds before Cato finally shifts again, breaking the illusion that he was made of stone. Very good. You may proceed. With that, the two brothers straighten back up before walking up the steps, splitting off to stand on either side of the acting emperor. They turn around and face us, both standing at attention, arms straight down at their sides. A drone levitates down from the ceiling, coming to a gentle stop mid-air in front of Cato. I notice the tiny red light on top of the drone turn green, and the old wolf fixes his eyes on the camera. Welcome to the trial of rhetoric. Rhetoric has long been a staple of woven civilization, and one of our greatest assets. While known for our strength and tenacity, so too are we known for our use of words in negotiation, which is why none of the siblings will talk to us, because of our great negotiation powers. Weird thing to tout when you're so currently diplomatically isolated from the rest of civilization.
Yeah, like I said, they're completely stagnated over here in their little
very
dusty caverns, you know.
Self-indulgent in their praise. Neferu snorts next to me, long enough that I wonder if Cato was able to hear it. I hope not. This is why it is not only important that we honor the art and history of debate today, but also prove our ability to use it as well. Being a competent rhetorician is essential to being a competent emperor. Remember the rules. You will have the floor for 20 minutes. Do not reference your challenger. Now, Amicus. That's the longest he's ever talked. I see the slightest of twitches in Amicus's frame as he continues to stare ahead. Yes, Emperor. Please, honor Adastra and proceed to the floor. Offer your policies through the art of speech. Going first seems like a huge disadvantage.
It usually
in
is.
A debate.
Yeah.
There's a slight pause when Amicus makes his way down the stairs. If he's nervous, which I know that he is, he's not showing it at all. His movement's calm and reserved. He walks several paces forward, away from the stairs to stand in the middle of the aisle, just slightly ahead of me. He's so close, and I wish I could just say something, get up and give him a hug and tell him that he's going to do great. But I know that time has passed, that the moment that everything has been building up to has just arrived. It's a strange feeling, watching something that's going to have such a huge impact on your life, but not being able to participate at all. I can only hope that Amicus is ready. He begins to speak, and when he does, it's not like his usual voice. Instead, it's deeper, broader, sonorous, I guess. Actually, it's closer to human singing. 20 millennia ago, we were chosen by the Romanus. Out of 1,000 species, they chose us. And was that not for a reason? He's moving his arms and paws a lot, too, in broad, sweeping motions. Not unlike the dance, though he mostly stays in the same spot. 15 millennia ago, we rejected them. We became the first abandoned sibling, and our empire entered a decline of the likes that we have never seen before. Closing off relations with siblings, losing children, losing resources. A drone floats around his body, and I can tell that he's playing up the performance to it, dramatically gesturing with overly exaggerated expressions, like on Woven TV. I realize like I'm watching one of those dramas I've seen on a national television. We fell long and hard, as if our very moon was sucked into the pit. 5,000 years of misery and desolation. 5,000 years until Drusus saved us all. Amicus goes on to describe the history that I had a vague knowledge of, how Drusus re-established contact with the parents, reunited the Woven Empire, and renamed the world Adastra, a name that represented everything the Empire stood for. Since then, we've spread far and wide across the galaxy, found lost children, established roads to resources our moon desperately needed. Space roads. But what we found to be most valuable? Rekindling diplomatic relations with the other siblings. With them, we shared knowledge and wealth, establishing ourselves as true siblings once again, until the war. While our reasons were sound for initiating the conflict, the sudden and unexpected attack frightened the other siblings, leaving them to abandon us once more. We defended our rights and our dignity from the Chemians.
Oh, Ahotep.
Neferu mutters that under his breath, thankfully. But at great cost. Our empire has suffered for our victory, but there is a way to reverse this. I don't know if the wolf is doing a good job, since I have no point of reference, but as far as I can tell, he seems to be doing great. No stuttering, except for the voice actor. No stumbling. His acting's pretty good, especially if I'm comparing him to the dramatic actors I've seen on the screens. His movements are powerful but elegant, just like his voice, and I find myself beaming with a sense of pride I've never had for someone else before. He goes on to describe the policies he's already told me about, i.e., re-establish relations with the siblings, fully uplift the children, reshape their role in the Empire. And the first step? Amicus suddenly turns to face us, though his gaze is on Neferu. An alliance, one that has been proposed by the Chemians. This may seem like a worrying prospect to you. It has never been done in the history of the Galaxius, but I can promise that while Emperor, I will demand respect and equal treatment from the Chemians. Their arrogance will be tamed, and woven dignity will be restored. The light on the camera drone in front of us is green, broadcasting our image to the entirety of Adastra. I'm at least glad that Neferu is able to control his eye rolling right now. Within the course of my rule, I will place Adastra on the same pedestal as all the other siblings, if not higher. No longer will we be the half-siblings of the Galaxius. No, we will once again stretch beyond our system, beyond our quadrant, and yes, eventually beyond the galaxy. Amicus points to the ceiling. As Drusus proclaimed 10 millennia ago, to the stars. So I say now, to the stars and beyond. Amicus pauses dramatically in that pose, then bows before turning and walking back to the throne. Thank you, Amicus. Cassius. There's a lot of politics in there of just like the way that like any kind of negotiation always has to sound like a power play, like we're the real winners or something, and we're actually beating them by having an alliance. Like the posturing there is exhausting, and it's exactly how it's talked about in real life too.
And also just the inflation of like your own country or planet's importance and relationship to everything else.
It reminds me a lot of how, like, anytime the U.S. has to sell any kind of getting along with China or Russia ever, they always have to they always have to do that kind of rhetoric, basically, to sell it to people. And it's like, there's a template for it, basically. I let out a breath, watching as Amicus makes his way up the steps, passing Cassius as his brother makes his way to the same spot on the floor. So that's it. Amicus's part is done. Now it's Cassius's turn, and I watch as he walks to the same spot, an angry scowl on his face. It's angrier than usual, almost furious, and I wonder if he's upset about how well Amicus had done.
I bet you that's like his angle. He's like, oh, everything's wrong. This is how we will fix it, kind of thing. Like, aren't you also outraged? I'm outraged. That's like another angle a lot of politicians go for.
Yep. But then he starts speaking, and I realize it's part of his show.
Oh, yeah, see.
For 300 years, our empire has been in shambles. I jump, and I even feel Neferu tense up to me, next to me, as the white wolf practically screams. Not because of the war, not because we chose a different path. No, this is because of Drusus and his flawed vision of the Galaxius as a whole. My brother was right about one thing. Adastra is the lowest of the low amongst the siblings, the laughingstock of the entire galaxy. No references to Amicus, Cassius.
I was about to say, I was like, objection!
Oh no, a debate where one person's breaking all the rules and that's like their angle or something?
Yeah, and then the person moderating the debate tries to get them to stop, but it doesn't
really
work.
do anything about it, and then they just...
So
and
the
then they
effect
weirdly
is still
just
there.
spend like all year giving more airtime to the person that breaks all the rules, and then, oh no, the president... Cato barks from across the throne room, but the other wolf ignores him, swiping his paw through the air, his movements aggressive and violent. Enough of being the butt of jokes, of being spat upon, of being considered at the level of mere children. It's time for Adastra to once again be respected, revered, and feared, just like before Drusus. Cassius' speech goes on like that, describing Adastra in terms that make it sound like the worst place in the galaxy to be. I don't know if this is good or not. He's definitely being way more intense than Amicus was, and if that's the goal, then I'm worried.
It's being the squeakiest wheel, being the loudest one.
He's making a show.
That definitely is like an angle for which to work with.
I glance over at Neferu and Virginia, and the troubled looks on their faces tell me that I should be even more worried. I look up towards the throne, but Amicus is still and straight-faced as ever. I feel myself start to sweat, wondering if this is the beginning of the end. My brother stated that war was responsible for our sudden decline. A decline not so sudden when it's happening for thousands of years. No, that war was the best thing that could have ever happened to this empire. It showed that we were unafraid, unintimidated by the most powerful force in the galaxy. We were mocked and laughed at openly before the war. Now those laughs are quieter, behind dainty paws as our siblings realize just how dangerous we can be. They take us seriously now. Cassius turns his angry gaze on us. But not seriously enough. Look who they sent to propose this alliance that my brother spoke of. No references to Amicus, Cassius. But Cato is quieter now, as if he knows he can't stop the young wolf.
Let's see.
Our camera light turns green, and I once again get the feeling that the broadcast is displaying Neferu. The one and only flower of Chemia, the pharaoh's faggot son with his oils and perfumes, stinking up the halls of our palace. I glance up at Neferu, but his expression has hardly changed, though I see a hint of a smirk in his lips. Meanwhile, Virginia is hiding a look of shock, or horror, or both, behind her fan. This alliance is highly suspect. I must wonder what is really going on during these negotiations. Actually, let me give you an idea. Cassius makes a sort of signal with his paw, then pauses. Everything is silent for a moment, and looking at the cameras, none of them are green. I look around at the others and can tell that they're confused as well. What are you broadcasting, Cassius? Cassius doesn't even turn around to acknowledge Cato. Just showing a small video clip. Of what? I see Amicus bristling next to Cato, and I feel the hair standing up on my own neck. Of a traitorous act between my brother and the flower jackal. What? Amicus is so puffed out that he almost looks twice his natural size. What are you doing? Yes, Cassius, what are you doing? Cato, he bugged my room. Amicus starts to move, but Cato reaches out from his throne to hold him back. Stay there, brother. It's almost over. And don't worry, it's censored.
Did it look like what we saw?
It's not great.
No, it's not great.
Cassius sneers back at Amicus before the red light on his drone suddenly turns green again. Cassius stares at the lens for a moment, letting the silence drag out for dramatic effect. Shocking, is it not? I already described the flower of Chemia. Do we also want the flower of Adastra to be our emperor? Time, Cassius. Cato's voice is soft, sounding almost astonished. Amicus is clearly having a much harder time keeping his emotions in check now. Even from this distance, I can see him working his jaw. But Cassius doesn't seem to be finished. And let me leave you with this. Time, Cassius, yield the floor. No, I will not yield. Adastra is the one out of time. This empire is stretched thin, and that tail razor proposes we stretch even further. When do we break? Cassius whirls around and points a finger at Amicus. He looks towards the children and the siblings while completely ignoring us. Cassius's bristled fur slowly starts to lay down again, the wolf making a show of trying to get himself under control again. So, let me leave you with this. While campaigning in the outskirts of Adastra City, areas my brother completely neglected, I came across a young child with the same disease that afflicts me. Cassius's voice becomes much more quiet, gentle, lowering his muzzle a bit to stare at the floor. Unlike me, she had no medication to speak of, because her poor farming family could not afford it. She was bound to a wheelchair, her bones so frail that something as simple as a bath causes them to dislocate and break. Cassius's voice catches, and to my surprise I see a tear slide down his cheek. How dare this empire let our people fall into such a state, that we cannot even care for our own people? I'm hearing that even now, we can't afford to vaccinate those beyond our glittering city. Cassius looks back at the camera. It may seem as if we cannot hear you past the walls of this palace, but I hear you. I promise to always hear you. I will not cater to the needs and wants of the siblings or children, to the Adastra City elites or officials. Cassius sweeps a paw dramatically to his chest. No, not to the stars, but to you, the people of the Empire. Thank you. Cassius bows low to the camera before turning to walk back to the throne. There's a long moment of silence as we all just stare at the White Wolf. Then Calm's voice crackles over our heads.
Triumvirates, make your decisions.
Suddenly, I feel something grasp me around the wrist and look down to see Neferu's furry black paw holding onto me. Well, Stephanie.
Oh my god. Oh, that's so heinous.
Mm.
And it's, it makes me, it's frustrating because, this is a tactic that Cassius obviously thinks will work and I feel like might work. But in reality, like being the kind of person that would do something like that to your own brother, and then also oh my god, it's just so horrible.
It's dark.
to basically spy on your own brother, and also just shame him for being gay, and to publicly shame him for being gay. Like in this situation,
sure, it'd be depressing if there was a demographic that rewarded that.
Yeah,
no.
and the fact that he's willing to do this makes me think that there is a demographic that rewards that, because why else would he feel like it was effective?
Yep.
Which it's a real
both
show of
in
character.
universe and life.
If someone was to do that at this point, well, I mean, I'm sure there would be a demographic that wouldn't
There's
want.
some real red state still.
I know, but I hope that like a reasonable human being realize that that's a real show of character for the person that's doing it, not a show of character of the person that is being spied on and then shamed for being the way that they are. If anything, that should be a real mar against Cassius. But I get the impression that in this situation, it's not.
It's very idealistic, I guess.
And then his little...
You want to think that somebody being openly a scumbag would like disqualify them, but
no, it's definitely it's not how it works at all.
2016 to 2020.
Like I said, like
somebody being really overtly and obviously a scumbag clearly didn't matter in real life.
I mean, people like to think that there's like, and some people will actually say something as if like, oh, there's a separation between like what somebody does in their personal life and like how they govern like, you know, a city or a country or a planet, you know. But in reality, I think like all these things are very much linked together. Just being an awful scumbag person who can like basically debase themselves into doing something so heinous as somebody else. Like, what else are they willing or capable of doing? It's just upsetting. Because I didn't like Cassius at all. I mean, I didn't like Cassius, but I really don't like Cassius now.
It's so much worse.
I thought maybe he was just misguided or something.
It's so much worse.
But no, he made a choice to be a genuinely awful, not human being, but a genuinely awful, like Adastra, you know. And like poor Amicus with his like hopeful speech. Everyone knows.
Amicus, who had not even considered until we pointed out that Cassius might just try to kill him. Like, he's so not ready for this mess and does not understand what his brother's capable of.
He's not ready for it, not because I don't think he's capable. I just think he's not ready because he's too pure. He's too pure. But like, and I think anyone like if you, I mean, you look at the history of like our world, a lot of like the linking of like cultures and ideas is what makes everyone flourish. Yeah. Like the thought that us reaching out to other, or of them reaching out to like other civilizations would be like what hinders them. I think it really works for people who are very afraid. It works for people who are afraid of like other people and are afraid of change. And it's so much easier to say that won't fix anything.
To imply that the current destructive path is actually the right thing to do, and you should just stick to it all the way.
I am aghast.
It's a lot. What do you think the result's going to be?
I think fucking Cassius is going to win.
So you think this is the end of the trials?
Oh, that is a good point.
Because it's a best of 3.
Oh, well then
he won the first one.
Well, then I don't think that, because I think they're going to want to show us another thing.
So you think he'll lose just because
he violated rules?
You think he'll lose based on the rule of dramatic tension, where they need to maintain the trial until you get to the last round?
That happens more often than not. I have a hard time thinking that. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna say he's gonna lose, but I feel like it's gonna be on a technicality, and not because the people of Adastra actually disagree with him. I think that a lot of people are gonna really like his opinion on this. It
reminds me of my first thoughts with Amicus, where it's like, I'm just gonna win the first 2, and then we won't even have to deal with the third one anyway. I'm like, that's not how
that's never how
this goes.
I honestly kind of forgot for a second. I was like, oh yeah, there is another possible route of seeing other stuff, and I feel like it's more likely like narrative wise to do that. But I do feel like they're going to make it a point to where Cassius doesn't necessarily lose because of his ideology, which will be a shame. I think he's going to lose because of something else. He went over time or some bullshit like that.
That'd be so deeply damning of the entire society, too, if his ideas are popular.
Well, I mean, and he's such a scumbag. The thing at the end, like, oh, I see you guys.
And he said he just went full slur.
Yeah, no, he really did.
Not even one of the colorful, like, local ones for the game, but, like, they went straight to, like, the worst one, basically.
I mean,
Like,
to be
alright.
fair, I mean, I know you were actually referring to faggot, not to, anything else. But I do like the thought of like Amicus being like the flower of Adastra. I think it's a beautiful nickname. That's kind of funny. They're like, oh, the flower of like, leukemian flower. I'm like, that sounds really nice. Like, I'm not upset about that at all.
Suddenly, I feel something grasp me around the wrist, and look down to see Neferu's furry black paw holding onto me.
Marco, very quietly, we're going to get up and head to my room. We'll move around to the back so the cameras do not see.
Typo. Camera apostrophe S. Why?
Because what Amicus had feared is about to... The triumvirates have made their decision.
I see Neferu's eyes widen in surprise.
Already?
He seems to say it to himself, but he stands, and I have to stand with him, as he starts to walk up the aisle, toward the back of the room, pulling me along with him. I look back at Amicus and see the wolf looking right back at me, finally. His eyes are full of worry and regret, and I can tell that everyone knows that Cassius has won. My stomach drops, and I realize that what I've been terrified of happening all month is actually happening. We've lost. I can only stare at Neferu's muscular arm as it pulls me towards the doors, toward an unknown and unwanted future.
Lupus?
After all this time, after everything we'd done, we've lost.
Amicus.
Neferu pauses. I look up at the ceiling, toward what I always imagined calm to be, to where I always imagined calm to be if he were real.
Like where I always look up to see God as if he were real.
Then I look back at the throne.
Ad rote, Amicus.
Amicus looks just as shocked as I am. Cassius, meanwhile, has his jaw set grimly. As always, I can't read Cato.
Lux, Amicus. Gibi, Amicus.
What the hell's going on? It had just seemed like everyone thought Cassius was going to win. And if it all was based on performance, then he should be winning.
Tricelli, Amicus.
There's a pause, one that has me realizing that we just won? Did we really just win?
Adastra.
Cato is staring straight ahead with his visor, and now I can see his paws gripping into the armrests of his throne. The silence goes on so long that Calm asks again.
Adastra.
Cato lets the silence continue for several more seconds before finally opening his muzzle. Cassius.
I fucking knew it. I
don't know what to think, but Calm immediately responds.
The trial has been decided. Amicus is the victor.
Voting I think it's 4-2, because he's worth 2. The silence that follows this time is deafening.
Oh, that might be bad. I forgot he was worth 2. I feel like that might be a thing later.
No one cheers. No one moves. Even Virginia's fan is frozen, as if we're all stuck in a picture. All the while, the cameras continue to hover over our heads, each one of them flashing green for a moment. Finally, Calm is again the one to break the silence.
This concludes the second trial. Thank you.
With that, the camera lights turn off completely, and the drones hover up toward the compartment in the ceiling. The lights come back on. As they do, Neferu is once again pulling me toward the doors. I want to hold back and watch, but the jackal is insistent, and the next thing I know, the doors are quietly sliding open, and we're walking into the equally silent, though much less tense, atmosphere of the marble halls. Where are we going? We just won. As I say that, I feel the excitement finally replace the shock. We won! Neferu, we what?
Clearly, but that does not mean you are safe yet.
What? Neferu is quiet for a moment. At this point, the jackal having let go of my hand, allowing me to just follow behind him. What even happened?
Who do you think should have won, Marco?
I frown. Does that matter? The triumvirates decided. Amicus won.
True, but not just the triumvirates were watching. We all know who should have won.
I feel myself getting defensive. Cassius was being a total asshole, and besides, he cheated. He went over his allowed time and referenced Amicus and his points. Neferu laughs mirthlessly.
The rules do not matter. I'm sure you've probably realized that by now. Cassius did exactly as he should have, but he lost because of you.
What?
The triumvirs clearly made their decisions long before the trial. We were hoping that they would not go against the will of the people, but Cassius's performance forced them to.
You're talking about the rumor about Cassius getting rid of them.
That would be the one. I thought that such a clearly lopsided win on Cassius's part would have deterred at least most of them. Their hunger for power is insatiable, it seems.
Again, I feel myself getting defensive, but there's also a sense of worry creeping in. Well, I don't know. I think Amicus did great. Besides, it's their role to keep the Emperor's power in check anyway, isn't it?
Yes, but that's not the point of the trials, and the people know that. Adastra will not be happy about this.
Well, what does that mean then? We come to a stop in front of Amicus's room, and finally, the jackal turns to face me.
That I cannot tell you. I'm not an expert on the politics of Adastra. I am simply a student here. Amicus may have won this battle, but I can guarantee that the power struggle is far from over. Amicus can explain more to you when he arrives. For now, wait for him in his room.
The jackal starts to turn to leave, but seems to notice the confused and probably worried look on my face. He pauses, then sets a paw on my shoulder.
Do not fret too much over this. It is par for the course in woven politics, that much I do know. Drama is their identity, and we can only be along for the ride.
Neferu smiles at me.
Amicus will keep you safe, and if there is a need you have that he cannot fulfill, I am also here.
Wink. I know Neferu intends for that to sound salacious, but I also think he means it in a nice way.
Neferu he's a nice guy. I like him. Like I said, he's just really horny. Which isn't a problem, that's fine.
I put my hand on his paw. Thanks. The jackal nods at me before turning away to walk up the hall, probably towards his own room. Once he's out of sight, I press my hand to the panel and walk into Amicus's room, sitting on the sofa to wait.
Do you remember? I mean, I say do you remember? I don't, as if you were alive. I don't think you were. If I'm getting my dates right, but in like the 1980s, sometime like there was like the
before times
during the Winter Olympics, there was like a ice skating couple from America that had like one of the most unanimously beloved ice skating performances of all time, but they still lost because of the vote. And it was so very apparently obvious that they had that. So Russia had rigged it, and it's proven.
Oh. Russia
had rigged it. But the thing is Russia usually always kind of almost like, or at least it usually always wins the ice skating competition, like the choreographed like dance that they do to music. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Where they wear the sparkly outfits and stuff. So like Russia is always usually like a top tier anyway. So they weren't expecting it to be such an obvious win for America. So
it was really obvious that they rigged it.
Yes. So they had paid, like basically they got these judges to basically vote for Russia no matter what. But America had such a blowout, standout performance that it was so obvious to everyone in the stands and to everyone that, in fact, even the participants, the Russians were surprised they won because they were not in on it. They were just two young people who like didn't know that that they were basically going to win no matter what.
Even the Russian skaters knew that they should have lost.
Yeah, exactly. And so they, awkwardly enough, eventually had to offer the gold medal to both people because they couldn't take the gold medal away from the Russians because they'd given it to them. You know, and like
wow.
Nobody cheered. Everyone was so silent. It was very awkward because everyone's like, wow, they shouldn't have won that. They actually made a mistake. The Americans didn't make a single mistake. It was like crazy. And they did like an amazing performance that people loved. Right. And then it was really awkward because after the fact, they ended up having to give the American group like medals also later on and like, you know, like days later or whatever. And it was just awkward because they had both of them win gold medals that year. Because they didn't want to take them away from the Russian kids who actually tried and didn't like know that their country was
that has to be so frustrating for the Russians too, though.
Yeah, they actually got in big trouble.
To have the competitors to have like weird like fake gold.
Well, and then even now, I think technically Russia isn't allowed to participate in the Olympics. They have to participate under like a weird, like they have to like basically put an asterisk next to their their name. They're like the representatives of Russia or something. They're not like actual, like, they're not representing Russia technically because they've cheated so many times.
Just repeatedly?
Yeah, no, there's a couple of really good documentaries
Jeez.
on like the times that they've like smuggled in fake urine and like weird stuff like that.
That is surprisingly,
they've cheated a lot of times.
That is surprisingly in parallel, yeah, because then it's like...
Oh yeah, watch
That's probably why they have all those frustrating rules.
Watch
where
Icarus,
they have to, like,
guys. Icarus is a great documentary.
That's probably why the rules are so frustrating now, where they have to like stare at your dick when you do the urine sample to make sure you're not like tricking them.
Yeah,
which is like a real awkward thing to learn about through the Olympics.
It was just you have
to have a witness, like a very intimate witness. Yes,
get a magnifying glass out, just look at your urethra, make sure there's nothing up there, you know. But no, there's been some very elaborate cheating scandals. But anyways,
that is surprisingly in parallel with this, where like they had
already
decided to rig the election, but they were hoping Amicus would do well enough that it wasn't obvious.
But it's very obvious that Cassius should have won, so now it's going to cause like a
riots in the streets,
uprising from the people.
It's strange. Amicus won, but doesn't exactly feel that way after what Neferu just told me. Amicus didn't genuinely win. He'd won because of a rumor, basically making the entire trial thing pointless. Still, I can't exactly feel bad about that. Cassius bugged this very room to show footage of Amicus fucking Neferu. I close my eyes, rubbing them with a hand as I realize how much that might have damaged Amicus's reputation. Not only did the people realize this trial was decided from the beginning by corrupt triumvirates, but also that their soon-to-be emperor had sex with a male, a Chemian male at that. But again, Cassius losing because of his intention to get rid of one of the few checks on his power seems like karma to me. Weren't they keeping the emperor's power in check by making the decision that they did? Technically, Amicus will become emperor now, though I guess it won't be official until Cassius actually concedes the third trial. I turn these thoughts over and over in my head for the next 20 minutes, a bit annoyed by the fact that even though I got exactly what I wanted, several issues have come with it. Suddenly the door slides open, and I forget my worry for just a moment as I see Amicus standing there. He only gets a few steps into the room before I'm already there, wrapping my arms around his body as I hug him. Whoa! Hey, Marco, everything alright?
Is everything alright with you? You had a rough day, dude!
The wolf sets a heavy paw on my head, rubbing the pads gently against my scalp. Are you? Of course! Amicus smiles down at me warmly, but having known him this long, I know that's not exactly true. Well, we won. We did. He's quiet for a bit, continuing to rub my head.
I wonder if he knows he probably shouldn't have won. Or maybe he just thinks he was really good.
This isn't really how I imagined it would go. Amicus laughs softly. Neither did I, but we did win, and that's the important part. Amicus hugs me tightly again. Is what Cassius did, what he showed, how bad was it? Amicus grimaces. Bad, but I'll find a way to get through that. Seems my first job as emperor will be rebuilding my image. When do you become emperor? As soon as Cassius gives up. I don't think he's in the mood to do that quite yet, though. We stand there for a while, Amicus continuing to stroke my head as I lean it against his chest, listening to the soft beat of his heart. I'm just glad it's over. I feel the same. So what next? Well, for now, I must go to the city. The triumvirates requested the imperial family be seen at once. Oh? Why? Well, everyone assumes the trial's to be over. They'd like to discuss things with the family before they leave Adastra for their own cities. I see. They also requested that you go. I lean back to look up at the wolf. Really? Yes, though I told them not to expect it. I know you wanted to see the city, but it's up to you. Well, it won't be the actual city, just the district where the delegates live. Things are a bit chaotic in the city center at the moment.
Oh no, I'm sure.
Chaotic. The citizens are excited after the trial. Ah, I imagine excited means angry. I could, but doing official stuff seems kind of scary. You wouldn't have to do anything, just look happy to be there, but it's up to you. Would it help you? Possibly. I would certainly be happy to have you there. Then sure. The wolf's eyebrows go up in surprise. Oh, really? Well, all right then, let's go. Now? Yes, I believe the others are already in the chariot. Are you ready? I think so. Unless I need to bring anything.
Of course they're riding a chariot.
Not at all. And sorry, I know things are moving fast at the moment. It's to be expected after the trial, but we can talk in private when we get back, alright? Okay. Amicus is already turning to pull me along, but I stop him. When he turns, I do what I'd wanted to do since before the trial started, and I kiss him on the lips. You're getting your wish. We're gonna go to the city.
I'm worried.
And it's at the end of an incredibly stressful day. What do we do with these feelings?
If Cassius played dirty like that, like what else is he capable of? I don't like this at all.
This game doesn't let up once it starts, and it started.
and it, you know,
this is actually a deeply stressful game. I don't want
Amicus to go to the city right now. I think it's a bad idea.
See you guys next time.
Goodbye. Oh no.